Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love. Look who I brought with me today. We got Connor. He's here. We're sure we're going to get it. I'm sure, even though there's no intentions to, at some point, I think we know where this conversation is going to go. But guys, please do us a favor, smash the like button if you enjoy the content. Or if you maybe hang around and wait and see if you like it. I don't want to just get the assumed like, but if you think you're going to like it, then drop it at any point. Hit the sub if you haven't already on the march towards 37K, I think. Hit the notification bell. So yell at the bell, drum the thumb, and rub the sub. And then drop the comment section a little bit of your attention as well. Keep us entertained as we are going through. Connor, how are you, mate? You okay?
I'm very well, mate. Yeah, hot. We got a little mini heat wave again, haven't we, here? Which is I'm struggling with a little bit. And I don't have the right type of body for this heat, I have to say.
Neither do I, mate.
But yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
I have like I have sweat marks underneath my boobs just from like lunch.
I feel you. I feel you.
Like I've been swimming, you know. Yeah, what's going on? What's the mentality at the moment? Are you a mentality monster? Are you positive? Are you thinking that all things are going to be good, or are you sitting there thinking that one or two of these names are not coming in? We're going to get pumped tonight, and then the protests have to protest.
I'm nervous. I think the history of data tells me I should be nervous.
Yeah.
I have to say, just before I'll start with some positivity, just in terms of the signings, I think I'm very, very happy with the two links. With Eze and Savinho, obviously pretty desperate for us to get them over the line. I think it's quite clear when you look at the way we are at the moment. We need to revolutionise that attack, and I think those two signings will absolutely do that, right? So, I'm praying that we get them over the line. I wouldn't say I'm optimistic it happens, because I think there's a lot, they're hard deals to do as well, right? To be frank,
Sure.
it's you've got Arsenal sniffing around Eze, obviously, and then Savinho is a player that Man City don't necessarily want to sell, it sounds like, but are willing to if he wants to really push for it. So yeah, I think they're hard deals to do. I think, look, if they don't happen, what I want the club, I always say this, I want the club to have identified who's the next target and move on it quickly. I think that's always all we can ask for. I don't think we can hope that these deals, always happen, but let's see. But and then tonight, yeah, I think that everyone expects us to get hammered tonight, so it's a bit of a free pass, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
PSG are fantastic. I think we're playing them at probably we're playing them probably at the best time we could play them at. Given that they haven't, they've had a few weeks off, got a couple of players missing. But yeah, I mean, they're a fantastic football team, so you'd expect them to win comfortably. But let's see.
Do you just before we get into, we'll do that. We'll cover the game up in a bit more detail towards the end. By the way, guys, at 2:30, so in an hour and a half's time, we're getting redirected straight across to Football Inc. So if you're a fan of Football Inc., I see a few people asking, "Where's Johnny? Where's Johnny?" Johnny's he's warming up. He's doing some. I think he's basically battered his body over the last 3 or 4 days of heavy drinking. It's interesting because when I first met Johnny, I'd go to the game and I'd first introduced myself to him, and I'd gone to the shop and bought a couple of those Magnum bottles of Magnum that are just like lively as hell. And I'd hand him one, and he goes, "Oh, what's that?" And I go, "Oh, I don't know what it is either, but I think it's tonic wine. It's delicious, and it gets you right up for it." He's like, "No, I don't drink, mate. I don't really drink." And I've got to know him, and then like bit by bit over like the course of last season, he managed to get around having one beer with me in the stadium pre-game when we were watching the music or whatever. And then now on the streams, like on the Spurs 5, he rocks up with a big giant fish bowl of red wine on episode number 1 from his holiday. And that now, every time I speak to him, I'm like, "You're right, Johnny." He's like, "Oh," I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Oh, I got absolutely belted last night." I think not deliberately. I think him just spending time with me is slightly turning him into an alcoholic.
Yeah. I mean, those tonic wines, Chaz, who as well, my mate, he's a huge advocate of them. So he's always
Magnum.
got one of them. Yeah, he don't drink beer, so he's always on that. So I've had them a few times when we went up to Anfield for the League Cup semi-final. He was driving, but I wasn't. I was the passenger. And I hammered a few of them back. They're quite punchy, aren't they?
They're sensational stuff, though. Like, and I guess, am I right in thinking? I hope I'm not going to. Well, I'm probably been cancelled anyway, so I'm not just say it. But is it like it's a black culture drink, right?
Yeah, it's Jamaican, isn't it?
Jamaican,
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
I was wondering why. Whenever I go into my local like odd bins or whatever they're called, just I don't see them in Surrey. So I want to go and get like a crate of them and say, listen, we can make a fortune here. There's like the white population around here hasn't got a clue. There'll be a population boom in Surrey when that gets into your bits downstairs. Ah, ta ta ta. You know, sensational stuff. Anyway, moving on before I say something, I'll probably get me cancelled. Let me ask you this, Connor. I've been chewing this over, and I know it's been being chewed over on Twitter as well. So I'm certainly not the initiator of this thought process. I think I'm just the inheritor of it. Do you think that Eze in a 10? I know this is going to go down like a shit sandwich, but Eze in a 10 when you've got Kudus and Savinho, both of whom are not good passers of the ball, that their first thought is to get the ball, turn and run. Eze's is also to do that. Is it a little bit too much dribbly, not enough passy in that front three behind Solanke?
Yeah, I saw the post on that, and I it triggered a thought for me as well, because I think you're right. I think Eze's probably a slightly better passer than some people in the responses are giving him credit for. I think but he isn't a sort of pass first number 10, is he? I think he's, to your point, I think he likes to beat his man, and similarly, obviously, with Kudus and Savinho, if those deals all happen. For me, though, I just think Eze's such a fantastic footballer. You sign him up, and then you work it out afterwards.
Yeah.
I think ultimately what would work well, if we're talking dreamland scenario, is that if you had those three, and we're looking into next summer, that's where you look at like an Adam Wharton, for example, who can
100%.
really, that deep lying sort of playmaker passer that can really progress the ball to those three, and then it reduces that reliance on them. Because I think, to your point, at the moment we don't really have that, so there's a lot of reliance, I think, on Porro and Romero probably to get the ball moving and linking defence to attack. But look, for me, I mean, our attack is so bland at the moment. It suddenly goes from probably the blandest attack in the league, or one of, to one of the sauciest, doesn't it? So I just want to see it. You know what I mean? It's just.
I just wonder though whether or not, because like you go back to the Conte era. I know we were playing a back three then, but we were largely a low block counter-attacking team. But we had Sonny and Kane, and by the end of that period, people were getting frustrated with the fact that we were giving up 65% possession, even though we were doing okay with our output because of those two. And I just wonder whether, because of that lack of creator that can sit there in a busy horseshoe football outside the edge of the box and pick the pass thing, I wonder whether we're going to revert back to an incredibly deep, like a much deeper line. Like people saying, oh, with the line dropping by 5-6 yards on average, everything opens the game up. I think we'll be further. I think it'll be much deeper than that, especially if those three are the 7, 10 and the 11. So that then when we do win the ball back, we just fucking launch it. And then you've got three absolutely, it doesn't really matter. You can like just close your eyes and hit the ball. As long as you stay on the pitch, on the left wing, on the right wing, or in the 10, you've got a guy there that can turn and run and drive at like a terrified defense. It's exciting, but I don't know whether or not, if that's the way it shapes up, I don't know how long Tottenham fans will be, will want to see that and not see more kind of like high possession and sort of, sit on the shoulders of what Ange tried to create.
Yeah, I suppose what I'd throw back at that perhaps is, and it's not, I mean, certainly they did dominate games, but if you look at Liverpool under Klopp, right, they didn't have a passer in midfield. They had three workhorses effectively in midfield. They didn't really progress the ball through midfield per se, and then Trent in our sort of Porro role was the sort of key passer, and then similar, and that can be quite exciting when it's that sort of super fast transitions. I think the problem with Conte towards the end was we went too deep, to your point, and then we had shit wing backs as well. So we weren't even, you had Emerson Royal playing out there at times, and on the left you had Sessegnon at times, and then Perisic. So I think that was half the problem. I think if Conte had two really dynamic wing backs, like he had Hakimi when he was at Inter, I think you might have seen something a little bit different. So, but yeah, I don't see us playing, like we tried to play under Ange at the start, which then everyone forgets by the end we were pretty dog shit as well. And there was no creativity. I think it was our worst stat for numbers of shots on target in the first half and things. You know, it was pretty dire towards the end.
That's
but
right.
I think it will be more transition based for sure, but maybe not quite as. I think it's going to be fast transitions rather than really dropping deep and then just relying on two players.
So you would, and I agree with you. So on that basis, then, so you're not concerned at all. And if I was to throw out some alternatives to an Eze that are not going to be as exciting, but probably do have more of a passing range, but less of that, game changer, less of that kind of that sort of the explosive stuff that he has. So you would rather see Savinho and Eze than say Savinho and Nico Paz?
What I've seen of Paz, I like him. But it's a risk again, isn't it? I mean, he's had a fantastic first full season in Serie A, but obviously he's not Prem proven or as established as Eze. So, but if Eze is not to happen because Arsenal gazumpus or whatever, Paz would be one of my first. But I'd rather have. I think Paz has got a higher ceiling than El Canuse, and I think the fans would be more excited by that. I think with Eze, I think the fans need it as well. And I know you shouldn't drive your transfer strategy based on what fans want because
they change their mind
what they want after time.
Exactly,
you know what I mean. But I think if there's one way to get fans back on side and to have that star signing that we haven't, I can't really think of anyone.
What about like a
unites the fan base as much as an Eze? You know what I mean? In terms of who? Sorry,
Danny Olmo.
That's enough. But is he a proper passer as well? I mean,
he's a 10 that can play it. We can do everything. That guy.
He can play out wide as well. Play false nine, can't he?
Yeah, it can be anything. He's good. Have you seen the size of his neck? Like, I'm surprised he doesn't bang it.
Crystal Palace supporter that I don't know if you saw that was doing the rounds at Wembley.
He looks like a fucking giraffe, mate. His neck is like about a foot long. I'm surprised he doesn't get up and like use that to throw his head on the ball a bit more. But Danny Olmo, to me, like, if I'm entirely honest, if you're giving me the choice of Olmo or Eze, I'm picking Olmo all day. I think he's a better player than Eze, and I think Eze is a wonderful player. But I love Danny Olmo. I've loved him for years, since he was at Leipzig before he's in he was sensational.
I mean, if you told me Eze's not happening, but we get Olmo, I think, fans will be disappointed because a lot of them want Eze, but I think that would be a really good signing. But as well, I think there's options in the 10, isn't there, around it? Isn't like, I don't know, we've spoken before about other positions, maybe the market's a bit shit, like left back, for example. There's not a huge abundance of left back. Whereas in the 10, there's different options depending on what different, you got the Prem proven likes like Eze, you got the sort of high ceiling punts like a Paz. You got, if Olmo's available, that's another sort of established one. Akliouche at Monaco can play in the 10 as well. I know he's mostly played out right, but he can play in the 10. So there's lots of options in that position, I think, compared to some others.
Yeah, or you could even go and get like that link that we had with that Buonanotte from Brighton. Like, it's really weird because he's a 10, but his best part of his game is his pressing and his unbelievable ability to win the ball back in the final third. So, like, you could almost imagine someone like him. Again, it depends on what sort of football you want, what sort of football Thomas Frank intends to play. But I think that Buonanotte, even though he's only 20 years old and he hasn't quite kicked on yet, and his output certainly isn't there, but he's not that sort of player. He's like a 6, but he plays in the final third. And I feel like if you were to like have him sitting in like in an advanced 8 or in a 10, but in a team that does a lot of horseshoe football that then gets transitioned on, and then he can win that ball back before the transition happens, like a Chelsea, like someone like that, then I think he would be able to be a really viable candidate for a big team in the future.
Yeah. No, I think he's a decent player, but I think with my worry is that Maddison is never going to come back, right? Or certainly not come back to the level of the player he was, given his age and this injury. And I think people need a bit more of a marquee signing in that position, and maybe what you just mentioned was a bit of the thinking with Gibbs White, because Gibbs White's not particularly a passer either. What Gibbs White was really good at Forest was
driving into space,
transitions. To your exact point, power and pace and moving the ball quickly. again, quite different to Eze actually, because a Gibbs White would take a lot less touches than an Eze.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think at the moment we're crying out for it, aren't we, in that position? Because it looks like it's probably going to be Sarr playing there tonight.
And he's not a good enough passer either. I think that he's the weakest part of his game is his passing.
I completely agree. Yeah, I completely agree. That's
if he can improve on that, he could be he's so unique with his ability to, like, because he doesn't look like he's sprinting, but he's just lanky legs. He can just cover blades of grass. His ability to read the game, intercept, passes, all that stuff is top draw. And I like the fact that he's not afraid to have a pop, to have a shot as well. Like, he's not, even though most of them go up into row 30, it's not like you can hone that, right? But you can't necessarily teach the confidence to want to do it in the first place. Whereas if he could just learn how to pass and know when to release the ball and how heavy or how, the right weighting on that pass, then he could be a player that's worth 50, 60 million quid in a couple of years' time, maybe more, right? But
I agree. That's definitely his downside, and that's the reason why I think last year at times, as people got frustrated with Sarr, and almost Berghvall showed it better. I know Berghvall gives the ball away at times because he's 18 and he's got that youthful exuberance. But I think he's technically better on the ball than a Sarr, isn't it? He moves the ball better. So, yeah, I mean, I think Berghvall's an 8, but there's an argument to say, do you put him in the 10 whilst we don't have one, because he's got a little bit more guile than a Sarr. Particularly, I'm thinking more against Burnley rather than tonight, because obviously tonight is just, we're going to get dominated. So let's see if we can have some legs in midfield, probably. But even Berghvall's an 8.
Would you play? Sorry to interrupt. Would you play Palhinha tonight, even though he's not ready? His game against Bayern Munich, he was so off it. He was absolutely shambolic against Bayern Munich. But the guy's only played like 62 minutes or something of football in 2025. Some stupid, I don't know what the stat is, but something crazy like that. He's not played very many minutes at all. And I just thought he looked so far off it that he was more of a liability than anything else. So I don't know how important this game is to everybody. In fact, I'd love to ask you that, right? Because I was having this chat last night on the Spaces. It doesn't offer you anything apart from a trophy that most trophies give you something, either money or access to a tournament, European football, prestige, whatever. But all this really offers you is a trophy in the cabinet. You don't get anything from it. And so I was playing this game with people on that Spaces last night. Would you sacrifice tonight if it meant that you won, the first 3 games of the season, or inverse that question? How many points would you sacrifice from the season if it meant that you won the cup tonight?
It's a really good challenge, because one part of me is it's a glorified friendly.
It is really, yeah.
But then there's this other part of me which is like, Arsenal have never even participated in this game, and it gives me something to say to my Arsenal mates if we end up winning it. And I've got a lot of them, and I'd love to just be able to put that over them. And it's another trophy, and it's not like a trophy like the Audi Cup, to be fair. It is something that is semi-recognised as a established trophy, even though it's a glorified friendly, as I say. And that links in with your Palhinha question. I also thought he looked shambolic against Bayern Munich in the bits that I saw, and way off the pace. But there is a part of me which goes, do you give him 45 minutes tonight? Because for the greater good, to your point, coming into the season, particularly not necessarily Burnley. I'm not fussed if Palhinha plays against Burnley, because we shouldn't really need him anyway in that game, because you could argue play a bit more of an ambitious double pivot. But then when you got City away, that's a Palhinha game, isn't it? 100%. If Palhinha's ready. So I would play him for at least 45 tonight.
I think you need him. I agree, just generally speaking. I don't want us to just roll over these people, but it's going to be a difficult game anyway. Like I said, I've always said this. Even if Tottenham had signed Savinho and Eze, I still would make the argument that if you're doing a combined 11, there's not a single Tottenham player that gets in that 11, even if Eze and Savinho are in our 11. Maybe Romero,
maybe centre half, maybe Romero, because their centre half, that's probably where they're weakest as well.
Yeah, possibly.
Romero, maybe, but yeah, I mean, no, there's no one else.
So on that basis, it's going to be a difficult one, and I think that the idea of Bissouma's not even travelled. We'll talk about him in a second, because he's bozo, galore, isn't he? But for me, I just think you need to get minutes in his legs. So even if he is a weak link at the moment because he's rusty, completely ring rusty, I still think it's the necessary thing, whether it's 45 or 60. But still go into it with low expectations from him because it takes a long time to get yourself back up to speed.
I completely agree. And I mean, to be fair, the only benefit as well is he will also be playing against a team that's fairly rusty as well because of this break that they've had. And so, and not to make excuses for the Bayern Munich game at all because it was pretty piss poor. But there was part of me, I don't know, in the bits that I watched, there was a lot of shots they were getting off from outside the box, right, where there was almost a lack of closing down the shot, which was the complete opposite of the Arsenal game, where we were on them in terms of closing. And I wonder whether a bit of sort of we've been travelling all around the world, lack of fitnessy type stuff, still building that up. You're flying from Asia, then going to Germany, you're playing a number 6 who's hardly pleggy. I think there was a bit of that in that game as well.
100%.
So it'll be interesting to see. It looked leggy, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it looked leggy. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think we'll look as leggy tonight, but I think we're playing a better team. So it's going to be challenging. But I think for the greater good, you need to give him 45 minutes, to be honest.
Yeah. Just quickly, we'll move back into transfer news, views, and clues. We're going to sort of dance around a little bit here. Connor, do the dance with me, mate. Bissouma, has he? First of all, what's going on there? Rocking up late, is that just him, or is it the fact that he knows that he's been basically sidelined, he's not wanted, and therefore he's like, "Oh, I don't give a shit. Why? I don't care." And therefore, is it right for Tottenham to discipline him the way they have? And by that I mean like call it out openly, because they could have just said, "Oh, it's an internal matter," whatever. But he actually said no. He's turned up late, not once, not twice, several times. It's unacceptable. We want to give our players love, but they need to show respect back. I'm paraphrasing, but that's generally the gist. But again, why I say, have they done it? Have Tottenham handled this correctly? I think the argument would be like, look at, if you're trying to sell a player, are you doing yourself any favors by letting the world know that he's a unprofessional so and so, similar to what Amorim did, with like Sancho and Garnacho and what do they call it, like the bozo bunch or something, that like the people that are inside,
yeah. I mean, I want to use a word to describe Bissouma, which will demonetize you, so I won't say that. But he's an absolute muppet. I mean, he, for me, I massively respect Frank for going out and doing this, because it would have been easier to do what you just described, cover it off with some sort of internal matter, or but for me, like, given Bissouma's probably been told he's not in the plans for this season and we're going to look to sell him, I'm guessing, and then he's reacted by turning up late. But I think as a professional footballer, that's an utter disgrace. There's other players. Even if we haven't told him, that we're going to sell him, we just told him that he's not going to be first team. There's other players, I use Ben Davies as an example, who I want out of the club for different reasons, but he's a top professional. 100%. He's known for basically his whole time at Tottenham, he's not first choice. He would never turn up late for training. There's no excuse for it. And so for me, like, it's absolutely the right thing to have not let him go to the Super Cup final. And I actually rate the fact that we've set this tone, which is basically that Frank is not going to take shit from these players. And you turn up late, there's going to be consequences, because you only need to start giving a little bit of leeway to these things, and then suddenly people take the piss. And so, yeah, I rate it. And to be honest, I'm at the stage with Bissouma where, and I know this isn't going to be the decision the club make because there's financial implications, but I'm at the stage where you go, do you know what? You pay off his contract and just let him get out of there, get the bad apple out. But I know they're going to obviously look to get money for him. But
what does he? He earns like 80 grand a week, doesn't he?
Something like that, yeah. Depending on whether you believe what's online. But yeah, I don't think he's on
4 million, give or take 4 million a year.
Yeah.
Look, I think that might be the way you go. Like, if you are going to bring in another midfielder, or if Palhinha is the guy, the problem is that if Palhinha gets injured, then you're back to Bentancur in the 6 again until January. You could make the argument that this squad needs 2 players that are more defensive. I just personally don't think Bentancur is anywhere good enough in the rest defence when we have the possession. I know this was under an Ange ball system. It's different now. We'll have to see. But if you're doing a double pivot, then fair enough. But if you're not, if you're letting one person take the deeper lying role on that too, which Bentancur did at times last season in the league, his inability to cover his man in the transition was half the reason why we got pounced on so many times, right? Because like the 10 had 12, 13 yards of space. And so when that was then realised that Bentancur's sitting around, goes, oh shit, he runs towards that. And then the fullback's already 30 yards up the pitch anyway. Then the winger has got an empty space to run into, so that the option was always there for the guy who wins the ball back in the opposition to either ping it short to the 10 or ping it over the top. And then because Bentancur wasn't close enough to that guy, it sort of compounded on itself. But no one really saw that the way I did last year. Everyone thought he did a really good job as a 6, and I never thought he did. And I think that unless the situation changes by playing a little bit deeper and the new tactics will, we'll see what that looks like as it happens. But for me, I think that we need another player that can sort of do a bit of that, because Palhinha, like he's not fit, or he's fit but not match fit.
Yeah.
And he's not like he's not injury prone. He's had loads of injuries in his career. So like, I just don't want to see the whole
suspended a lot, to be fair, because he picks up a lot of yellow cards, right? So
100%. Right. So I don't want to see a situation where we go and drop all this money on the guys at the top end of the pitch. And we'll move the story on forward in a minute to something that Everton are about to go after, Dovbyk, who's an absolute baller, and they're about to pay 45 million for him. I mean, but in any event, like I don't know, do you think that Palhinha is enough in the midfield, in the kind of defensive side of the midfield?
I get all those concerns you have, but I do think a lot of them about Ange's system, to be fair. Yeah. I do think there is a lot of that for sure. I mean, because you didn't only have us playing this lone 6 with the midfield, you had your Porro and Udogie, so he's covering acres of pitch. And look, Bentancur is absolutely an 8, right? He is, you think about when he was at his very best, and I'd argue he's probably, I can only think of Kane, but other than Kane, under Conte for that while, I think Bentancur was our best player, right? When he was, playing with Højbjerg, and Højbjerg was doing a lot of the sitting and dirty work, and Bentancur, to your point, was playing more of a proper 8 role. I think if Palhinha is out, then you absolutely need to play someone with Bentancur that is a bit stable as well. Maybe a Sarr, for example, because Sarr can cover a lot of acreage. Or even you've got Archie Gray, obviously, as well. I think Gray is still, we're all waiting to see how Gray develops, clearly, and obviously he was pulled from pillar to post last season.
I forgot all about him, to be honest. I literally forgot all about him just then.
Yeah, did you? Yeah. And he had a good game against Newcastle, I thought.
He did. He did the best game I've seen.
And
100%.
If you were playing a double pivot of, say, a Bentancur and a Gray, maybe that might work when Palhinha is out. For me, I get your point. I mean, in an ideal world, you would have hoped, you'd sign another one, wouldn't you? Who could in that position, particularly Bissouma going. But I think with the fact that we need to do so much work going that way forward, I just can't see it.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I agree, actually. And I completely forgot about Gray. And it's a massive season for Gray. Massive season. He has to step up, stand up, and get himself in the gym, by the way, as well. Like Berghvall put on about 3/4 of a stone in muscle by
I'm just laughing to myself because there's me and you sitting here telling Archie Gray to get himself in the gym.
100%. Me sitting there saying it's so unprofessional. It's like Bissouma is so unprofessional. Meanwhile, it's 1:30 and I'm drinking a gin and tonic. 100%. Yeah, the audacity. So let's talk about the front end, right? So if not Savinho, do you think Tottenham have got a second option lined up behind it? We haven't really, since the Savinho links, there's not really been anyone else coming in apart from Eze that could also shoehorn out to the left-hand side. So do you think that Tottenham, once again, are putting all their eggs into certain baskets and expecting something to drop? Or do you think that they've got things lined up behind if it doesn't work out?
Yeah, it might be one of those. We just don't know. I mean, the funny thing was that Savinho link came out about a day after we were told we weren't going to go in for a left winger, weren't it? And it was a 10 and a centre back. So, it's. I mean, you and I speak about this a fair amount. I know you got stung on it once, but this it just sort of feeds in. No one really knows what's going on today, and all the in the knows are it's all a load of bollocks.
It's a complete load of bollocks. Complete load of bollocks.
Yeah,
the amount of stuff that's going on, like the amount of stuff that's going on right now with even just the contract clause for Eze. You've got like Ben Jacobs on one hand saying that the clause can be activated until Friday. You've got Romero saying the clause has expired. If we can't even agree amongst the senior ITKs whether there's a clause or not,
that tells it, doesn't it?
You know, what's going on? What's going on?
And these are the same people that think that they're like got the information on sort of Saudi Arabia investing into Tottenham with all of those topics that that they're going to tell. I mean, it's just
it's hilarious. I have it on very, very good authority that Tottenham are about to close at some point in the next 5 years as massive monster. Okay. Because everybody who's signing in, what you said in the chat this morning, I just don't think that these people that are signing these NDAs with like horrendous fines and outcomes if they get caught are going to risk their career to let some 13-year-old in his mother's basement let the world know.
It's exactly that, isn't it? I mean, like, and these are big deal. Big players, you know what I mean? It's not particularly in those types. The transfer one's a bit different because maybe people hear snippets from agents and they feed the information they want to get out. I suspect there's a bit of that. But these ones around takeovers, I mean, come on. You're talking about like things that are at the level of like the head of the ministry at sport in Saudi Arabia and the royal family. Suddenly, as I say, that 13-year-old on Twitter finds out about it. Come on.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. Who's the Saudi crown prince? What's his name? Bin Salman, right? Yeah, my ITK is Bin Salman. Yeah, what are we doing here? Okay. Hello, Your Majesty, or you got Your Highness, whatever it is, Your Excellency. Any chance to take up the top?
Yeah.
No. Okay, cool. Yeah. Fantastic stuff. Shake 5 names, 100%. A couple of super chats, and I want to ask Connor about some of these other rumours that are knocking. I want to talk about unprofessionalism. We'll talk about Alex Isak. I mean, what an absolute bozo. But before we get to that, Ulrika, big up to you. Thank you so much, miss. Super sticker. The choo-choo train has left its station. Oh. Appreciate you very much, Ulrika. We're going to pick you up, get out of the bath, dry yourself off, love, put down the G&T, put on some lippy and some makeup, and we'll pick you up in no time, babe. No time at all. Big boy 77. Love that. Hi, guys. How about Oyen Sunset if we don't get Eze? I mean, he's a cracking player. I love him.
I've not seen a lot of him, to be honest. I couldn't give you a view.
I've got his where is it? Where's my favourites? Here we go. I'll bring it up on the screen. He's a wonderful, wonderful 10. Love it. He plays for Bilbao. He's
yes, sorry. The Bilbao 10. I've seen tiny bits, but not
Let's get it up. He's a great look at this. Look at this. 1 second. Get rid of the overlay. I'll just quickly get rid of that super chat for a second. Thank you very much, big boy. Look at this guy, right? His shooting stats: average shot distance 16 meters. He likes a crack from the edge of the box, which I think is something we need to do more of, right? His passing stats still don't really slap. They're not really slap adapt, but his passing into the final third is pretty good. Progressive passes 5.3 per 90. I mean, his stats are a little bit meh. But if you actually watch it, this is where the stats test versus the eye test are like.
Yeah,
I know this player. This player is an absolute baller, but he doesn't look like it. There's not that many green bars. His output though is sensational. Is it 7?
Yeah, he looks like an every 10, doesn't he?
Yeah, a goal, 3 goals every 4 games as a 10. Really not too shabby at all.
He isn't the Brennan Johnson of 10s though, is he?
Yeah, a lot of Tommy tappings. Back post sunset, we'll call him. Thank you very much, big boy. Ulrika's back in. We will beat PNG and lose to Burnley. PSG lose to Burnley. Yeah, that would be Spursy, wouldn't it? That would be Spursy. Would you? Let's go back to that question, right? Would you sacrifice Burnley and City 0 points from 2 games to lift the Super Cup?
It's a hard question, isn't it? Because I probably would 2 games just because I think just having that thing of winning another trophy. It's hard though, but yeah,
You
yeah,
would?
I would. Burnley, Burnley.
Would you
If you're then
sacrifice
telling me we
9
win the next 20,
what about the next 9 points then? The first 9 points?
I think it starts to get worse, doesn't it? I think once you start keep more because I just don't want. I've got this fear that people are going to turn on Frank quickly because
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
that's what we do, and it's certainly that's what we do, mate. Is the Anginas are waiting. I've already
yeah,
seen a bit of it in pre-season. It's funny with the Anginas because I think there's some that are of my camp in terms of the Levy out camp that use it as I think Angin because they want to use it as a reason to bash Levy, to be honest. And then there's some that obviously just have that view that trophy means everything, and then let's forget about the fact that every time I went over and sat on the south stand, I wanted to throw myself off of it every
yeah.
other week. So
That's
yeah,
right. That's
it
where I
is
lay in.
interesting.
I'm in that camp. I'm in the season means more to me. The journey is very very important. I couldn't go through another season like last season, even if it meant we lifted the FA Cup in May.
Do you know what? I've never been like, and I'm younger than some people that are in the chat, but and I mean I've seen some awful teams. I've seen Gary Doherty play up front and stuff, But
Ginger Pele,
last
careful,
the
careful.
Ginger Pele, yeah. I think last season was the most despondent I probably was in terms of the league season towards in terms of just sitting down, going to the stadium or watching a game at home if it was and just like didn't really care that much. It got to that level, and you just can't have that, can you? As a fan of a football club who actively participates in it as well. You want to have something to. We can't go through that season.
Yeah, I concur, mate. I just, for me, I think that trophies. As I've always said, like I understand it's the point of elite sports, but like I'm not an elite sportsman. I'm an elite armchair fan who wants to watch and enjoy the games. And yes, the trophies are the right way to put the icing on top of the cake or the cherry on top of a good season. But to finish 17th and lift the trophy, for me, I was like, I can't do that. 9 months of traveling around England and getting smashed everywhere you go, all on the off chance that we might do something at the end of the year. Like it's not, for me, it's not what football's about. The trophy should be the climax of a good season, not the saving grace of a shit season.
That's a really nice way to describe it, I think. And look, Bilbao was amazing. It was my, the best night of my Spurs supporting life, and that was absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I think to your point, it's just you want it to be the climax. Under Poch, for example, when we were,
Yeah,
week in, week out. There was that period, as I was saying to someone the other day, that period when we'd be 4-0 up at half time quite often, and then the second half it was like easy street. It's just a shame that team never got over the line because that team absolutely deserved to win something. And yeah, I
do
think
you think that we could be capable? What was the average age of that team by when we started to really heat? When we started to really gel, like 2017, a couple of years before the Champions League final, when we finished in that we finished third in the 2-horse race to Leicester, and the season after that when we finished second to Chelsea, I think it was. That period, because I actually remember, even though it's weird, but I remember thinking that in that Champions League season, I remember thinking like we had a bit of a shit show in the Premier League.
Over the cracks a bit, actually. Yeah, it did.
But we still finished fourth.
Yeah, I
know.
No, this is the thing. Funnily enough, I was only chatting to my dad about this morning because I was, we were reflecting on Poch and he had that really poor run towards the end. Do you remember when we didn't win an away game for God knows how long? And I think it was 25 points in 24 games or something.
Yeah.
As we finished the season poorly, obviously there's lots of reasons why that happened. But yeah, we were much better when we were at our pomp. Was that season? Hey Adrian, was that season? When we finished second to Chelsea and third in the Leicester season. That period, when we didn't lose a game at home in that season. You remember we won 17 and drew 2.
Yeah,
we were unbelievable. Actually, that Champions League run season, we weren't quite as good.
No, we weren't.
But yeah, I mean, God, what we'd give to
we
be back
still
at
did
those
manage.
times.
still managing to finish fourth, and everyone thought, because I remember having a conversation about this about a month ago or 2 months ago. I was having some Levy debate or whatever it was with someone, and then going, yeah, but like everyone talks about Poch, like it was a disgrace that we sacked Poch, but like Poch basically was pitching for the Argentina job in the pre-match interview, and then like the next season, I was like, we finished. We had a terrible league season. I was like, I remember in the next season we got smashed 7-1 or 7-2 by Bayern Munich at home, and he put on like 9 forwards or 9 attacking players. And I said to my dad at the time, like, he's asking to be sacked after this. And then as I was saying that, I was like, wait a minute, how did we play against Bayern Munich in the Champions League if we had a terrible league season? I was like, wait, did we finish fourth? It's like, yeah, we finished. I was like, fuck it, hell, I remember that being a shit show, but we finished fourth that year. I mean, second, third, and fourth in 3 successive league campaigns with a young team that was just incredibly balanced. I think the most important part, I think that team was so balanced, and it just was terrifying to play against. Adrian, how do you remember those times, mate? Good to see you, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. A little request. I was having a look at that guy we both like the look of, that Johan Coughlin.
Yeah.
You know to get the stats up. Could you get his stats up?
Yeah.
Just want to have a look, see what they are, because I really like the look of this guy. I mean,
is it Kaflin?
Yeah, Kathlin. Johan, Yoann. Utrecht. He plays for Utrecht.
Yeah,
the winger, the right-footed left winger. He looks he looks a bowler to me.
That's not it.
But it is that league again, So
Johan Coughlin. Here we go. FB ref.
Yeah, I think the problem with the end of the Poch era, I mean, just whilst you open that, was like, I think it was he just got fed up, didn't he? I think it was there was that interview where he spoke about the fact that he was a coach, not a manager. Do you remember? And he was sort of linked with that United job. I think those windows of not rebuilding, I think all impacted it, and it did start to go like that. But I think when we all reflect now, I think we all reflect and go, maybe we should have, we did sack him prematurely. I think we were 14th when he was sacked.
Yeah. It was all falling apart.
Only like 4 points behind 6th or something. It was tight still at that stage.
But do you not think his like he was getting a little bit stale, his ideas? That's why I've got so much admiration for
the squad was though, Sean, as well. I think the squad was. I think it was both probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that Arteta's peaked at Arsenal, for example. I think that if you've been somewhere 5 or 6 years and you haven't quite got over the line, I think unless you're someone that can reinvent, like Pep Guardiola reinvents his system every year, even if he doesn't need to, I think it's just a way of keeping everybody on their toes, keeping everybody thinking that, okay, I'm learning something new, doing something fresh. Whereas, Ange Postecoglou just came in every day and repeated the same training, the same tactics over and over again. And I think to some degree, that's why you don't really see 5, 6, 7 year tenures that much anymore, because most managers have their style, have their system, and then don't really keep things, fresh and new. People start to get a little bit bored of doing the same old thing.
The Poch thing, if you talk the Poch thing as well, apart from a tired team, maybe got fed up with him. Same ideas. You can't give the same team talk every game you play, can you? Soon bore the hell out of everyone. But if everyone remembers, we had 6 players in the England team, right? You had Rose and Walker, Dyer and Ali and Kane and Winks or Skip or something like that. Yeah. And we were the youngest time. I think we were the youngest side in the Premier League. And when you're playing at high press, you need young players, don't you? And I think there's a danger after a few seasons of burning them out. And we're seeing it now, a lot of injuries. There isn't no data out there yet, scientific data, is there? But I remember when Poch was at Southampton, before we got him, didn't know who he was. And they played the high press, but they weren't a wealthy club. They didn't have a deep squad. And they got to Christmas, they started picking up all these injuries. We did it for a couple of seasons. I think Kane and Sonny started getting all these ankle injuries and that. And you look what happened to Liverpool, they had the same problem with injuries, playing at press, and then Man City. It eludes this high press. You get Pep and saying, I like to work with a smaller squad. I actually think the way players are put through the grinder now, you need a squad of 30 and you should have at least 12 subs like you're in Europe, because you only got 9 on the bench. So I think.
Yeah, but that would just extend the gap between the haves and the have-nots. I think if Manchester City could have, or Chelsea could have 30 people in their squad, they would fill it with superstars, but the other teams wouldn't be able to compete. And
the problem with that Poch team is the starting 11 was really strong, wasn't it? And then the squad depth was the issue, wasn't it? So once we started to get those injuries that you just mentioned, I mean, there was a couple of positions we had a little bit of depth, like at fullback, it wasn't all full, particularly once Trippier was there and if Walker was out or whatever. But there was, Kane, for example. Obviously, that was a real struggle. If Dembele was missing, you didn't have a like for like. It was. I think that was part of the problem. And Sean, just quickly on that point you mentioned about tenure, I think it's a really good point. I think it's you look at Ferguson and how long he lasted at United, and that was in a different time, obviously. But he did do quite often was mix up his coaching staff. He had a couple of different just so you're getting a different voice, right? In the training sessions, and I think you need that because we've all worked in businesses where it starts to get you just start to itch for a change, don't you? You want a different all of those things. So you can see that the same thing happens with football teams.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's what in order to stay relevant, I think you have to keep people on their toes, and I think either change. If Pep, I think Pep just changes. Sometimes I literally don't think he even needs to change. I think some of the changes that he did, he does it anyway. Like he walks in on the first day of preseason training, right? You know what we did last year that got us the 4-peat? Well, scrap all that. We're now doing a different style. Why? Just gotta keep you guessing. You never know what you're going to be getting with us. And I think you're right. United changed. They have Steve McLaren. They had Brian Kidd. They had like 3 or 4 different sort of assistant managers along the path that when it was their time to move on, they'd bring in somebody else. And like you say, new voice, new face, new ideas. It just keeps everybody on their toes. And I think that Thomas Frank will have to do the same thing, or just have like 500 different models of football that you're always sort of finding some time to kind of, like Angie's system of just one way of playing for the most part in the league probably didn't bode well, right? Whereas Thomas Frank, people like Marco Silva, people like certainly Glasner, they're more than happy to pivot to back threes when necessary. They're more than happy to allocate times when they're going, high width, other times when they're more narrow. They have different specific combinations of players to do different things. All of those things equal different things to learn, equals an active mind is a happy mind, So what are you thinking, Adrian? Do you think that Thomas, I guess bringing this more relevant to now, is Thomas Frank, the fact that he built a 7-year legacy at Brentford, do you think that generally speaking, the longer a manager stays, the better obviously they've done well enough to maintain their legacy, right? So do you think that we can expect something like 4 or 5 years out of Thomas Frank, or does the fact that we only signed him on the 3 years?
I do. He reminds me a bit of Poch. I don't know if it does you two as well. It does remind me a bit of Poch, and he's a thinker and gets things in. What we want to see, really, I mean, like we're quite happy, right, with our back 7. It's just he's got to get the front 3 to fire. Whatever blend he uses, he's got to get some fire. I can actually see Johnson being given a go down the middle because as we've got abundance of wingers, Kudus might move central to allow room for something like Silvina or whatever. You've still got, I think Tel's a central striker. He's an inside striker type forward to me. He's not a winger. I love his attitude. I think you've commented on his attitude before as well, Sean. He's got a great attitude. That's what we've missed at this club for years, really. Attitude's always been, I think it's just turn up and swan it, basically.
Yeah.
And
because you can't teach attitude. You can't teach it, mate. No, you can fine tune and hone his confidence. Bissouma, exactly. Bissouma's the entire opposite, right? You can't fix that. If there's just that laziness, that idiot thing in him, with Mathys Tel, you can hone his passing, his final decision, his shot confidence, his pillow foot shot, whatever. Like you can fix all that stuff in the gym or on the training ground, but you can't teach monster mindset. I don't think that's something that comes from within.
No, as a foreman for years, a bricklayer foreman for years, when they used to ask me, officers, what makes a good bricklayer? And there's 3, I'd say 4 things: plumb, level, engage. I said an attitude. You're only as good as you want to be. If you've got the wrong attitude, you'll never do well in anything. You'll never do well in anything unless you're in a life of crime or something like that. But you'll never do well, right? So attitude's so important. I mean, you look at Bissouma not going on the trip. Get him out of my club.
What an idiot.
Get him out of my club, right? You can't turn up for time. You're paid millions a year and you can't turn up for time. You know, you could employ someone to wake you up and drag you to the training ground, couldn't you? I mean, it's so unprofessional. And it sets a bad precedent as well, if nothing's done about it. It sets a very bad precedent. I mean, you've got to have
and also, like, you know, if he's supposed to be there for, like, it's not just him that's like letting himself down, but he's letting the team down because the team can't train to the full extent of their capacity if one of the players on one of the teams isn't going to be available because he's, you know, still putting his boots on or whatever. And I'd love to know how late we're talking about here. If it was
I'd love to know.
If the rock up time was like 9, you have to be here at 9 a.m. or whatever, and he's rocking up at 9:05, it's a little bit more understandable. But he's rocking up at 11:30 with a hangover. You know,
if he's a sulky type of player, knowing that he's on his way out, and so he's like stretching it a bit, you know, with his attitude. But then his attitude was always a bit questionable. You know,
look at the laughing gas incident. You know, there's been plenty of examples. You know, that's the other thing with this. It's not a one-off, is it? This isn't the first time we've heard about. In which case, you could go, "Oh, maybe he's really." He's really upset about the news that he's been told he's not part of the first team, which still wouldn't be acceptable. But you go, all right, well, this is your first. I mean, Ange, he talks about how much he loved Ange Bissouma, but you consistently let him down as well, you know, with the laughing gas incident and other things that he did, you know. So
he
it's
got 3 suspensions in a season, Connor. 3 suspensions in a season.
I know.
He got sent off at Luton. It's good that VDV scored and Decky held the ball for us to carry us over the line and get the 3 points. But there's no excuse for that. And some of them, the simulation booking gets him sent off. You know, what's in your head? That sort of indiscipline. And then we were all nervy going to a cup final, right? But the UEFA Cup final, they always are nerve-wracking affairs. They shred you, don't they? But you really go through the mill. But the last thing you want to do is worry about a player costing you a game through lack of discipline. You know, I mean, get him out. I mean, I don't want him. I don't want Richie. I don't want Gil. Solomon, I've got to be honest about Solomon. I only see 2-3 bits. I see 2 cameos for the team, and his best game was away at Burnley, 1-5-2. Yeah. And then I see a bit more. Oh, you've got something about you when he set up Sonny for 2 of his 3 goals, like, you know, his hat trick. But so I don't really know. And obviously, this is when you're not sure about players, like people were about the left back that's Regulon and all that. When you're not sure about players, you've got to trust what they're doing at the training ground, haven't you? Because you've got nothing else to go on, have you? You don't know. So yeah. No, Bissouma's he's got to go now. He's got to go. Well, I don't care if he runs his contract down. You know what I mean? And goes at the end of the season.
I think that might be. I think that Tottenham should push ahead on the presumption that he's either going to be sold or, at worst, as you said, Connor, if needs must, then you just make him train with the kids for a year. And look, rather than tearing his contract up, make him train with the kids. And if he rocks up late every day, every time he rocks up late, you dock him a week's wages. And so, like, you might end up not actually paying him anything anyway. You know, I don't know if that's legally binding anymore. You don't really hear too much about people losing a week's pay, do they, anymore? But
no.
You can make it uncomfortable for a player because you could say to him, right, you're not going in the Champions League squad and you're not getting much game time, so find another club.
Yeah.
So that might encourage him to go. You know, I don't know.
Are people going to want to buy a player who's been outed by his foot? Like, this is the thing, right? Like, it's probably a decent transition here.
He's done it loads of times.
Look at like Alex Isak, right? Would everybody like Alex Isak has basically said, well, apparently he's literally said, I am never playing for you again, regardless of whether you sell me or not. I'm never playing for you again. So if the window shuts and he's still a Newcastle player, unless he has a change of heart, he's basically going to train and just sit in the stands. Like, that's an absolutely outrageously disrespectful thing to do. And but like, surely if you're Liverpool, do you still want to sign a player who's capable of that level of petulance?
I wouldn't.
Even though, because I think like you might say, I don't want to sign Bissouma because Bissouma's not that great anyway, but Alex Isak is one of the best. Like, do you tolerate that sort of shit show because you know that when he's happy, he's going to bang in 25 GA for you?
I think this is the problem. I mean, football's a peculiar business, isn't it? Because it's very different to normal life, whereby, if you want a new job, you can resign and go get a new job. But equally at the same time, it doesn't work the other way. Like I'm sure Man City would love to be able to tell Sterling he's never going to play for them again and not have to pay out his contracts, but they have to, right? And so, it works both ways. I think the problem, I mean, what Isak has done has obviously been ridiculous. I think it's particularly, Newcastle. It's not like he's at Wolves, or he's at he's at a team that are in the Champions League, team that signed him for 63 million from Sociedad when no one else wanted to pay that much for him. You signed a contract for a certain amount of time. It is super disrespectful, and this is where I think, to be honest, players are going to act like this. This is where they need to negotiate into contracts, release clauses more clearly. And obviously we don't want to get into the Gibbs White scenario again, but I just think it's outrageous the way he's acted. But ultimately, what you need to happen, but it's never going to happen, is you need an owner to say, we're not going to let you go under any circumstance. You can go and rot with the kids for a year.
Imagine that, mate. Imagine that if Prince Salmon or whatever, like Salmon, just went, fuck him. Let him rot for 3 years.
I mean, they are the ones that could afford it, but they're never going to do it, are they? Because 120 million is 110, 120 million, right? So,
it would be amazing if he runs.
The problem is, though, Sean, things have changed. Yeah, things have changed a bit in terms of player power now, right? Because you had the Lassana Diarra case. I don't know if anyone saw it, but it effectively has changed the balance somewhat. That players can now trigger this thing called Article 17. It was Lassana Diarra, the centre midfielder who used to play for Portsmouth, I think, Real Madrid. He had a situation basically whereby legal case about him wanting to terminate his contract when he was at maybe Donetsk or someone in Russia, in Ukraine. Anyway, but what the case means now is effectively, once you get past the protected period of your contract, the player can decide to terminate their contract. But in doing so, they have to pay damages to the club.
Wow.
And damages will roughly equate typically to sort of the net book value of what the player is worth, right? So for Isak, that's only about 30 million in terms of what he's got left.
Because of what they spent on him rather than what he's worth.
So they spent 60 on him. He's been there for 3 years out of 6. Right. There's 30 million left on his,
wow, that's interesting.
So he would have to. Now, obviously, no player has yet done this because it sort of tears down the whole mechanics of the transfer.
And so then he could sign. So he'd sacrifice his salary, pay 30 million quid to Newcastle, and then walk on a free transfer, and then can sign for Liverpool. And Liverpool only have to pay him his signing fee and his salary. That's it.
Yeah. So in theory, you could have a situation.
That hasn't been done yet.
No, it hasn't been done yet. But you could have a situation effectively where Liverpool say to Isak, "We'll give you a £30 million signing on fee."
Yeah.
Covers your damages for your contract to Newcastle. But
holy shit,
the problem with it is you're then going to get into this massive legal case. You would get into this situation whereby I'm sure Newcastle would then go after Liverpool because they say you're tapping up the player and you encouraged him to do that. It gets really, really messy. But theoretically, that can actually happen now.
What's it called? Article 17?
Article 17, yeah.
I didn't know that.
You have to have been past a certain point in your contract. So I think I can't remember what the exact rule is. I'll dig it out. But it's I know that Isak is past that point of protected period.
I think that's happened. I think there's been cases, might have been low amounts of money for players that don't have a great deal of value that wanted to move and leave the clubs they were with. I think it's happened abroad. I mean, anything goes with it.
Obviously, this Isak one would be super high profile.
In theory, you could break any contract. I see a little, I don't think there's anything in it, bit left field about if Muniz leaves Fulham, Richalison to Fulham to work with De Silva again because he did at Everton and Watford. But I don't know. I mean, I don't like the transfer window, as I stated last night when we were working together, because it's just all BS. I mean, even the Eze thing. I mean, he left at Arsenal at 13 years of age, right? So you got Miguel Delaney at the Independent saying he prefers Arsenal, but he's not averse to joining Spurs. So you never know you can't read any. We need something concrete. What I would call solidity of specification rather than bullshit.
I think Sean, you said about this on one of your streams I was watching, where you were saying about the Spurs 5. It keeps going back to the Levy debate, and it's becoming
exhausting,
a bit repetitive. I think the problem is we don't have any games to watch properly at the moment, do we? So it's like you're in a transfer window, so then it naturally, you get stories like the protests, so then obviously that circles back to Levy. You get stories about transfers not happening, so that sort of. And it does become a bit like.
The problem is, as podcasters and guests, we have to be creative during a transfer window just to have something to talk about.
Yeah.
So there's other things.
The summer for me is like the best time to because content. There's always something to talk about. September the 2nd, like you got 5 days.
Only got the game, I suppose. Yeah.
You got the game, right? But you
got a game every 3 days.
If you're not in Europe, it's torture.
Which I'm sure you'll cover and all. You've got the playoff for the 4 pots for the Champions League. Then that draw will come. You'll be quickly into the season for the League Cup.
When is the draw for the Champions League?
Must be soon, mustn't it?
September, isn't it? September.
I would have thought it'd be this month, wouldn't it?
Once the playoffs are done, a few that Brugge have got to play, haven't they? There's a few teams that have got to be involved in the playoffs because we're in pot 3. Coefficient's a little bit lesser than Brugge's, but if they get knocked out, we're probably going pot 2. Not that it makes no difference. We went through the pots last night. It was good fun, actually. You know what I mean? Because it's not as frightening. Only pot 1 is terrifying, but the other pots, the other pots, especially now we're getting.
I think pot 3 is more difficult than pot 2.
I said that last night.
28th of August, the draw, Sean.
28th of August, right?
Yeah.
So imagine if we haven't signed anyone particularly spectacular by the 28th of August, and then we get, I don't know, let's just say, for example, we get Dortmund and Inter, and we get Club Brugge and Club Brugge and Eintracht Frankfurt. Then we get Bodo Glimt at home and Marseille. And then the last one you get is, I don't know, Union St. Gauloise and Celtic. I mean, imagine Daniel Levy going, well, you got a shot, you got enough there to get through. Don't worry about it.
We've only got to finish in the top 8. It's the same as Europa League, exactly the same fight. And we finished 3rd, didn't we, in our thing? And we was talking yesterday. We weren't sure whether you get an advantage by finishing in the top 4, who you're going to play next, whether you're at home first.
You only get home. That advantage only lasts for 1 game. It's a joke. Right, so I think that you should, if you finish first in your league, you should get home. You should get home field advantage second. I guess it's you want to play home second, don't you? So you should get home field second the whole way through to the final if you finish first. Otherwise, if it's just the 1 game, the whole thing's kind of pointless.
Yeah, I think Connor said yesterday, if you've got 2 out of each group, you play one of them team at home and 1 away. Because we're trying to see, who would you rather have at home? Would you rather have the hard team at home, or would you rather the easy team at home and play the hard team away?
Well, you need 4. You need 4 wins, don't you? You need 4 wins to get yourself in the top 8, basically. So I'd rather have in pot 1. I'd rather have Dortmund at home, and then I don't know, whatever, Inter away, and then pot 2. I'd rather have Bruges at home. You want to have just easy home games.
I said the one thing which is beneficial for us is actually in pots 2 and 4, the best team is English, and we can't draw them.
Yeah,
as I understand it. So exactly. Actually, then you're getting 2 of the rest. I mean, it is funny when you look at this because there's lots of commentary and debate about the fact that we need to have a squad ready for a Champions League season, which obviously I completely agree with, and we need to do. But when you actually look at the quality of the Champions League teams outside of the real big boys, who we should definitely finish between 9th and 24th, right?
Yeah.
And, through to that, it would have to be somewhat of a disaster for us to not.
Then you're in the playoffs. So, because like the Europa League playoff game. So even if you finished out of the 8th, I think it's down to 16, isn't it? You got to finish in the 16th.
24.
Yeah, but you got from 9th to 24.
Out of 36 teams or something. So 24. Well, it won't be, but
32 teams. So there's 32 teams. First 8 go through. 9th to 24th play each other in a playoff, and then one of those teams goes through and joins the other 8, and then the bottom 8 teams go home early.
Book your tickets for the final. Book the hotel now before the prices go up.
I've booked my hotel. I always do it, right? Free cancellation job. I did it for Bilbao. Obviously, I don't think we're going to get there just before anyone in the chat.
I mean, I think it's every Spurs fan's dream, especially now. I've seen us win a lot of trophies, right? But I want a Premier League and a Champions League title before I pop my clog. So that might mean I'm going to have to live to be 150, but I can handle that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. How far do you think we can realistically get? I mean, like realistically, like I said, with the PSG thing, it's the same sort of merit, right? Like I don't think that Tottenham, even if you go and get Eze Savinho, even if you were to go and hijack that Dovbyk deal from Everton, who I think is a baller, by the way, I think is a really, really, really good. I think Everton are just quietly going about their business, and if they get that one done alongside Tierno Barry, they've got 2 really interesting forwards, and then on the right, they're still trying to get that guy
as well.
They're trying to get Dibbling done. They just got Jack Grealish, and they're trying to get in the that Malik Fofana guy. Even though I think they're going to get completely beaten up by Liverpool, whoever else goes in for him. Everton are going about their business. I think they really are sort of doing some nice little things. I think they're making a steady under David Moyes. They're making a steady push to get back to 10th, whatever, somewhere around there.
I think it's the first time for a long time that their fans, have got some optimism, which they probably deserve as well, to be fair, because they've had we talk about us and but Everton have had a torrid time in recent times. Watching Liverpool win the league as well, it's pretty horrendous. So yeah, I think they are going about their business well.
There's just something so special under the lights at White Hart Lane in a midweek game, and I remember when the shadows were following the players around the pitch under floodlights, on mud baths and all that. And for some reason, we had some cracking games. And I just think at the new stadium and the atmosphere it can generate on the day, and if they do it properly, like Bodo Glint, put all the flags around the ground and things like that, I'm sure you guys will go to as many games as possible. You're a season ticket holder like me, aren't you, Connor? Yeah?
Both of us are, yeah.
We'll meet up Saturday anyway. You're going Saturday, Sean?
Yeah.
Well, we normally meet. I'm going to meet with Kev, EMF and all that in the south stand where them ventilation towers are. We'll be standing at the front of one of the verges of false artificial grass. Anyway, if you get there, just give Connor a ring or me a ring. You've got our phone numbers and you'll find us anyway.
Connor, do you catch up with these guys? Do you?
I was gonna go say hello. Yeah. When I go, so yeah.
The trouble is for people when you've got a dog like Bugsy Malone, trying to get from the entrance point to meeting people, you get people go, oh, where's Bugsy? Where's Bugsy? All people ask me how Bugsy Malone is. She knows it as well, the cheeky little shit. She walks around, they're all strutting her right now. Season's coming, everyone's going to be asking after Bugsy. What do you like? By the way, guys, in 23 minutes time, we're moving over to Football Inc. to go through all of the transfer news, views, and clues around the country. Just with that Alex Isak, just to round him off, because I do want to then bring it back to Tottenham's transfers. But do you think what do you see the outcome there being with regards to Isak? Do you see like Newcastle figuring out a way to shut him up, keep him happy, and like give him a new contract or whatever else, or do you see him leaving? And if so, is Liverpool the only destination, or could you see Real Madrid or someone else coming in and going, all right, fair enough, we'll take him off your hands for 120 million, because opportunities like that just don't really present themselves very often?
I think he ends up at Liverpool, to be honest. I know that's probably the safe answer to that question, but I think it's
who can afford him? Them, PSG, Bayern, Keynes. Bayern could come in for him because Kane might leave at the end of next season. But they've just bought in Diaz, haven't they? I don't know. They usually bring in one good player. They've got a world class forward line anyway. They've got
obviously Kane. Their right wing is
you've got Kingsley Coman, you've got Diaz, and you've got Elise, who they've got off of Palace.
Elise is amazing.
That's four quality. So, and there was rumours that we're going to get rid of Coman and all that. I don't see why though.
He's gone. He's gone to Al Hilal or Al Nassr. One of those.
Yeah, he is going. Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
He's a brilliant player. 25 million quid as well. 25 million euro, whatever it is. It's I know he's getting on a bit.
Yeah, I think the thing with Isak, and it sounds mad, I'm not sure. I'm not sure anyone else will make the finances work.
No, exactly.
I think you know, Saudi obviously could, but he's not going to go to Saudi. But I think, you know, Bayern Munich, I don't think they're not in the business of going and dropping that much on a player right now. PSG are obviously super wealthy, but they're close on some of the UEFA ruling stuff, and I think they're quite. And to be honest, as well, after Enrique's just got rid of a load of prima donnas who don't work and have attitude issues, to get this current, does he want to now bring in Isak, to your earlier point, Sean, who was proven quite petulant through this process? So I'm not sure they would. And then Real Madrid,
a lot of fans, you know, Connor, they're magnetically attracted to the transfer fee. They forget about the wage package, which really bumps it up, right? If you're on that sort of money. I mean, I don't know what 300 grand a week works to, or more.
15 million quid a year, give or take.
15 million a year, isn't it?
Yeah. So you've got a 5-year contract with a 1-year option, which you would have. So that's,
and he'll be on more than 300 when he goes to Liverpool. By the way, he'll be on closer to 4. That, you know, as I say, Sean, we had this discussion before when. You know, the likes of Salah and Van Dijk, I don't care what Capology or the likes say, they're on over 400 grand a week. Yeah, so have to be, otherwise you can't get to the number in the accounts, you know. So
this is why clubs like to pay in instalments over the 5 years, which is a rule now, not the bent rules in Chelsea. We're doing it over 8, but because if you've got to go to a bank and borrow money, your deal's suddenly that much more expensive because you're paying interest on it. So if Palace insisted on 60 mil, although we heard it's 320 mil payments, but we don't really know what the truth is. If you've got to pay 60 mil up and you've only got 20 mil in cash in all your companies, but you know, then, or 30 mil or whatever it is, then you've got to go and borrow that extra money and pay interest on it. So now that deal's more expensive. So the fan, it's 60 mil, but it isn't. You know, you got the wages and any interest you've had to do to borrow the money.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, first of all, we don't know what the clause thing is, whether it's real or not. Yeah. Romano says it's not. Other people are saying it is. But let's, in a world where, you know, it's real. Maybe as a bad example, because from what Johnny tells me, there's like nobody wants to touch that price tag. No one think like Arsenal, not
struggle
City.
To understand that personally.
Same. You know, but it just harks back to this idea of like no sell-on value. Right, but then like, what difference does it make? Tottenham don't fucking sell players anyway.
What's wrong with letting a player run down his contract? If you buy the player, you should buy him with the intention, yes, he's going to be with us for 5 years. You shouldn't be buying him thinking, oh, I want to sell him on. That's a poor way. It's a poor project to have, or a poor way of thinking. You know, to do that. I mean,
but like even if that is the notion, right? And Tottenham are part of this kind of early movers. City have been doing it for years. Chelsea too, and Tottenham are third in the Premier League to be doing it. Although you can make the argument on a lower scale, like the Brentfords and the Brightons and all that, and Bournemouth do that as well. But if everybody in world football is now fishing in the same kind of young pond because there's this idea that there's sell-on value, it doesn't make any sense to me on many scales. One is, if the notion is that you buy every top 20-year-old and because there's higher demand for them and just the same amount of supply, you end up overpaying anyway relative to their value because of you're fishing in the same pond. So you're like, it's bidding wars. Then you're pricing in perfection, all to sign the player that may or may not hit. But even if he does hit, by the time he gets to 25, 26, if the thought process is still quick, no one wants to pay it anyway. It's like a zero-sum game of stupidity. It doesn't make any sense.
You do get these generational talents that come across, having Lamal and all that come across. I mean, Silvina, right? You've seen enough of him to know that, and he's not oven ready. He's cooked, as far as I'm concerned, for the Premier League. You know,
Savinho.
Yeah,
I think he's quality. I think he's lovely. He's lovely. He's one of those. He's one of those sorts of guys where, if he comes in, he'll be immediately a fan favourite. You know,
he's got to do something with it, because I've always said, and I like the player as I like Kudus, but we've got to get goals out of these guys as well. Otherwise, you're expecting your wingers to provide a lot of assists. So that Solanke gets 45 goals a season or something like that. That's not happening. So
sometimes they have some of the parts, though, isn't it?
I think Odegaard and Tel will chip in with goals as well. I really do. I think that winning, the belief those kids will add. I mean, even Mikey Moore up in Scotland, Rangers, right? A Europa League medal. But some players don't get a medal in their whole career, 100%. In their whole footballing career. And I've seen it when Spurs have won trophies before. And leading up to it, you get the buzz leading up to them FA Cup wins around the place, right? And then there is this belief. There was such belief, and it just gives the squad belief. Once you've got across that line and broke that mental barrier, you believe you can win any time. I mean, we're playing PSG tonight. On paper, if they're at their best, even if we're at their best, they should smash us to pieces. But football isn't like that.
No.
And they've only had 6 days.
Have they had any pre-season friendlies at all?
They've had 6 days, I think, back. They've been back 6 days. Jal's banned because he got sent off in that tournament.
Who is?
Jal. Oh, get it up.
Neves.
Get it up.
Neves. Yeah,
Neves. He's not playing.
Their last game was Chelsea, I believe.
They've got Chevalier. Yeah, we looked at Chevalier a while back, the goalkeeper. They've got him in goal, so he's new, playing in a final.
And he's nothing. He's nowhere near Donnarumma. Like nowhere near. Like
it's interesting.
He's an interesting goalkeeper, but he's nothing. Yeah. Like Donnarumma's just that bloke just fills the goal up. He's so big and he's so agile. He can get down. Like most big goalkeepers take forever to get down. He doesn't. Like if he goes to Man City, I think that immediately that I genuinely think that until a couple of days ago, I was sitting there thinking Liverpool are probably going to win the league at a canter.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought that second place was probably going to be Chelsea. And the third place was going to be City and fourth was going to be Arsenal. I think Arsenal are peaked, personally. But
I think it's going to be tight. Liverpool are going to come out on top.
If City get Donnarumma and if they get Rodrigo...
It will depend on what we call the round-robin games between the top 6, really. Who takes more points off of each other, but Liverpool are going to come out on top. I don't know where they get all the money from. Even with winning the league and that, don't know where they're getting all the money from for what they've spent. So
I want to ask on that. Not just that, but Manchester United as well, because they're spending money that they, crying that they haven't got any. So I'm going to get take just a second, Adrian, and kind of one section. I'm going to do a couple of super chats. Art Barlow, big up to you, Art. Super sticker, choo to you. Thank you very much indeed, my man. Appreciate you. We're picking you up. Let us know we're picking you up. Finn McMullen, what a name. Do you rate Sudakov from Shakhtar? Yes, I do. I did videos about him back in January or maybe it was last summer. I think last summer it probably was. We were linked with him, and I was like, I just don't really see it happening because Shakhtar, the whole Solomon thing. Tottenham probably still don't have a great relationship with their chairman. And I still would be surprised, but he's a very, 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 very exciting player. And I've actually got his. I think I pulled this up earlier to show you guys in preparation for this super chat. Here we go. And sorry, Adrian, I forgot to go through your Yo and Kathleen. We'll go through that in a second as well. Thank you for the super chat. This is Sudakov. He's a cracking little 10. Brilliant, just activity, right? Shot creating actions, goal creating actions from take on, 99th percentile, possession based stuff. That just take ons, takes them on. For every time he takes a player on, he gets half of them right. Carries, 37 carries a game, total carrying distance. He's a beautiful player. I don't know what the standard of the Ukrainian league is anymore, now that all of the non-Ukrainians have fucked off because of the war, or most of them have. But he's a very, very, very interesting player, and I wouldn't mind it. But I can't imagine that he would want to deal with Daniel Levy again after the Solomon thing. But thank you for the super chat there. And the last one is Bobby Spurs, super sticker from you as well, mate. Thank you very much, Bobby. I hope you are all good, buddy. All good indeed. Before I come to your player, Yo and Kathleen there, Adrian, just quickly, Connor, have you kept an eye on, have you taken a glance at how is it that United have managed to find 200 million quid? Is it all legit, or is there probably some sort of investment that we're not aware of?
I think with United, obviously, just going back to the very original interview from Big Jim where he spoke about, they're going to be bust by Christmas, and that was the reason they needed to sack Doris the tea lady and everything else, make her redundant. Yeah. That was clearly a massive exaggeration to support the business decisions that he wanted to make, and somewhat, as horrible as it is, some of those decisions probably were justified. You had people like Alex Ferguson, who I always call the ghost of Christmas past at United, because he's sort of hanging around judging everyone after him, still being paid millions, and the same as and they definitely got too bloated in terms of non-footballing staff. So they needed to make those decisions.
There is one loop. Sorry, there is one loophole, Connor, and it's the ATP, the Associated Transfer Partnerships, which Man City won that case. It's separate to the rules they're going to get done for in September, October, whenever the Premier League get their finger out, all right? But there's that. So basically, they were virtually given freelance, you can be sponsored for as much as you want, no matter how ridiculous it is. Like, that's what am I right in that, thinking that, or what?
Yeah, I don't think they've had that. Yeah, I think with United, I think it's more those decisions they did make have made a bit of a difference in terms of what their picture is now looking like financially, but also, Sean, to your specific question, definitely they will be borrowing some more money or there'll be an injection. They already on their they recognise some charge, which basically sounds like they've either extended or rolled over one of the rolling facilities they've got to borrow cash. So they're definitely going to, I think, have to have borrowed some cash. Or I think the plan is, if you read the original docs when Ratcliffe came in, I think it all leans towards that he's going to do a full takeover at some point. So I think he will inject some more money as well, to be honest. So that's how they've got that. And then the PSR stuff with them, because you remember there were some articles a little while ago about them having PSR issues. That was all exaggerated, to be honest, because actually people didn't understand some of the deductions they could take. So they're sort of okay-ish from a PSR perspective as well. So yeah, that's where they've managed to get themselves all right. I think you asked a question on Liverpool as well and how they can spend so much.
Yeah,
I think obviously there is the point that last year they didn't spend a lot. The only player they signed was Chiesa, and then the keeper who they then Mohamed Dashvili or whatever his name is, who they sent back on loan. And they're a bit of a money making machine now. Liverpool, their commercial revenue is actually in excess of Man United's, right? Which is crazy. Right? Yeah, it's now got to that level, and
is that since they put the new stadium, the new stand in? Have they got like lots of hospitality shit in the background, or is it more just
sponsored? That? But it's sponsors mostly. They've got some, they've just done a new deal with Adidas. From a transfer debt perspective, their transfer debt was only £128 million that they owed on existing transfers. You compare that to us, we're at 337, right? So, it's a fraction, and so that's one of the reasons they can go so big. Is it's a bit of a money making machine. They've got money coming back in as well because they've sold players. Their net spend actually isn't that high this summer. Now they've got Nunes and Diaz out the door. Yeah, and Elliott will probably go. And then also their transfer debt wasn't very high either. So, yeah, this is what they do. They're very, very well organised, aren't they?
And their worldwide fan base is huge because them and Man United have got the biggest pedigree in our league for what they've won. I mean, our estimated fan base is 34 million. But I bet Man United's in Liverpool.
How do they get to that number? Do they just go and count up all the followers?
I think Man United and Liverpool will be 3 times that. Well, they do the market research, because if you want to sell shirts and merchandise abroad, or even TV deals to subscribers that can afford it and not in a third world country and too poor, then you do the market research, didn't you? So
yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure I saw that Tottenham fan base. Premier League fan bases by size, and then it was source conflated social channel subscribers. I was like, what are we doing here? So half of those numbers are going to be the same person that's followed everyone, like followed Tottenham on Twitter, followed Tottenham on YouTube, followed Tottenham on Instagram, whatever. But that'll do. Just throw them all together, add it up. It seems like it's back of a fag packet calculation time, And Tottenham probably got about 35 million fans worldwide, have they? Okay. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. But then also, you have to wonder how many fans are considered fans. Like in South Korea, you could probably say Tottenham have got 50 million Korean fans, right? In an 80 million.
I think there was 14 million, they said at one point, that we had in Korea. I remember, I mean, it's going to be interesting,
isn't it? I've probably grossly underestimated our fan base. It's probably approaching 1 billion as we speak.
I think all those people, though, just suddenly, they've torn up their Tottenham shirts, and now they've gone and bought some LAFC shirts,
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how many
Yang.
Yeah, we have got Yang.
It's a gold mine.
One thing I would say. Yeah, I was just going to say, the one thing I would say about, the point with the Koreans, I mean, I don't know, you guys have probably done it before where you speak to people that travel over for the games, right? And, from Scandinavia or perhaps Germany or whatever, and they'll go, I started supporting Tottenham because I love Jurgen Klinsmann so much. And they have carried it on. So I think you will get I think you will get a small percentage, but I don't think what you won't get. I think it'll be Koreans that live here.
Yeah,
will probably continue to. I don't think we'll get the football tourism clearly to the same extent.
Yeah, I agree.
I've got a question for you. Do you think that foreign fans are less fickle than our fans here then? That they would be more loyal, for example, like the Koreans, because they do have a different attitude, don't they?
I know. I mean, yeah. When you say fickle, do you mean like volatile?
No, I mean like chopping and changing too quickly. So if you're fickle in your support for a club, you're loving them 1 minute and then
it's weird, isn't it? Like we had Colin on yesterday, and lovely guy, love Colin, and he's from Indiana, and when he was saying when he comes to Tottenham, it's like a $5,000 trip. Because like the flights, like you're not going to come for a day, are you? You're going to stay for the same with like people like Jack Kinsky on from the Irish Hotspur. Him and his mum fly over from Seattle. You couldn't get a longer flight, or you can, but not many, right? And then they came over just for that to get beaten. I think it was the Brighton game after get beaten 4-0, right?
Yeah. When you're in the stadium, you feel sorry for them. I mean.
Yeah.
I can walk to the stadium in 35 minutes, right? 40 now, like 40. Because I walk home from some games, when we've won with a spring in my step, but that didn't happen too often last year.
Yeah.
But so I'm a mile and a half from the ground. I'm lucky, But yeah, but others that travel, you're in the ground when you lose, and you're sort of feeling sorry for them. Apart from the fact you've lost and you're not feeling too great anyway, and I've got some Koreans over here or over there or whatever, and you're thinking like you're feeling sorry for them. You come all this way. Even the lads that come from Ireland, they're costing them like 500 quid.
Or 100%. I think that it's so outrageous when people assume that they are more of a fan than someone else. Like I hate it on every level. Like I hate it when you get the Levy out or the Levy in people, whoever, right? Whichever. If you're passionate about a topic like that, and then because you're in your encampment, and then the other side don't see it the way you see it, and you don't see it the way they see it. Therefore, you're not a real fan if you don't see it through my lens. Or people that say, I travel up and down the country. Therefore, I'm entitled to feel more pissed off than you could sit on your ass and watch it from home. I just all that stuff. Like, there's people out there that probably never go to Tottenham because they can't, for whatever reason, access to tickets, geography, resources, whatever. And yet it hurts them more than it hurts many people that go up and down the country because they see it more as a hobby, but it's a part of their routine. I just think that any kind of assumption that you are more or less of a fan than anybody else because you talk about things more, or you're more passionate in the way that you present your argument, or because you go to more games, or because any of that shit, it's all bollocks. Like you're just a fan like everybody else.
I mean, they get up God knows what hours to watch our games. They buy the merchandise, and when you see them and you see these supporters clubs abroad, whether it's in Korea, Australia, America, and all over, we've got more supporter clubs in America than any other team. I think it's because of the NFL. We've got the fastest growing fan base out there as well, and they're brilliant. I just think they're fantastic. I really do.
The other thing is, I think sometimes, like, with some of the people that criticise, I do get the argument, though, if you're investing time as well, that it can impact you in a slightly different way if you are making that effort to travel around compared to if you're actively making the choice not to go, for example. Your point clearly about people that can't afford to go or live too far, that's maybe a bit different to someone who could easily go and is deciding not to.
Yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, there's definitely some people just aren't as big a fan as others because they just whatever. But just to make the assumption that I am a bigger fan than you because I spend more time or I appear to care more, I'm not sure that's reasonable to make.
And there's a risk assessment as well, because you can book all your flights and your tickets, and the Premier League will change, or Sky will change the day of the game. I mean, Texas couple, they booked to come and watch us play at Burnley of all places. No disrespect to Burnley supporters.
No, that was the game that got me into content. That was the game that got called off. Well, I've got to go. We've got 30 seconds till I'm supposed to be on Football Inc. But it was that game. I was the last one on. It was my first ever time phoning in to We Are Tottenham TV, and Irish Hotspur was doing the pre-match pump-up, and I was the last one to speak. And then as we were speaking, the game got called off. And then Dave and I got into it. Like, he's like, don't worry about the 10 minutes. Let's just keep talking now. And we had a 45-minute ding dong about Daniel Levy. And he was Levy out at the time and I was Levy in. And I felt so bad because I was getting all these hateful comments going, who is this fucking clown? Fuck him. I was like, oh, what have I done? Put the thing down. And I text Dave on Twitter saying, I'm really sorry, mate. I didn't even know. I thought it was his channel. So I was so new to the whole thing. He went, what are you talking about? It was great. Come on the Irish Hotspur. Next day I went on the Irish Hotspur, had exactly the same argument. And then I was like, I fucking love this. I love content. I'm gonna get on board it. That was the start of it all. Guys, we have to go. I've got to go over to Football Link. Stay where you are in the chat. 1,300 people. If you want to carry on the football conversation, it is still going to be a lot about Tottenham over on Football Link, but we do include everything else. Stay where you are. We'll be over there in 30 seconds. Connor, massive thank you to you, my man. Appreciate you very much for coming on. Always love the conversations. And guys, if you enjoy Connor's take on football and finance and everything else, he hasn't got a channel yet. I know he's going to get one eventually. He just needs a bit of warming up to the idea. But there you can find him on x.com /Levy. Thank you very much. And guys, also, if you haven't found them already, you should have done. Adrian's channel, Diehards, multi-award-winning Diehards, is the place where you can find Adrian, Ian, and Drew, and a few other people as well. But Tom as well. Guys, I want to say, Adrian, just super quick. I've got 5 seconds. If you got any shows coming up?
Friday show with Drew, that's it. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with the game tonight. I've got to go out and get some beer in.
Man. We completely forgot to fucking talk about the game, to be entirely honest. We ran out of time. It was nice
do it on Football Link. Do it on Football Link.
We'll do it on Football Link right now. We'll go over there and talk about it. Appreciate you all. Stay where you are, guys. Come over to Football Link. Smash the like, smash the subscribe in the comment section and all that stuff. See you in a minute. Cheers, boys. Love you. See you soon. Bye. Oh, got in the stream first. Thanks.